Welcome to the Girls and Ghosts podcast.
I'm Shauna.
And I'm Lexie.
And on today's episode, we are going to be reading stories about doppelgangers and mimics. Because we thought of this idea as we talked vaguely about mimics on one of our other episodes. Can't remember if it was the first or second. But we thought that we'd dive on into it a little bit more. We are filming this on the same day we filmed another podcast. Hence why Lexie looks like she's, yeah, she's tired. We was going to film this tomorrow, but we decided to film it today. Anyway, so let's get into the stories, shall we? We have quite a few here. We're not sure how many we're going to read. We're just going to go with the flow type thing. That's what
we
today's
go
episode.
with the flow like every single time.
Well, yeah, but we always like have some type of plan, right?
No,
we don't. Okay. Okay. First story is, around 15 years ago, when both of my kids were toddlers, I was putting them to bed one night and my son was adamant that he wear his favourite red race car pyjamas. I happily obliged, helped him change into them and tucked him into bed. Then I sat down at my kitchen table with a friend who had come over to chat and catch up. The way that my apartment was set up, you could see my kids' bedroom doorway from the kitchen table. My friend and I were talking for a while before we were suddenly interrupted by a sound of my son screaming. We both turned and looked at the bedroom doorway and saw my son standing there loudly crying, shrieking, and wearing his green pyjamas with airplanes on them. Everything inside of me was screaming that this was wrong. The hair on the back of my neck stood on the end and a cold shiver shot down my spine. My friend and I wordlessly stared at each other for a second. We both knew that my son couldn't change his pyjamas by himself yet. We looked back at the doorway and my son was gone. We ran to the bedroom and found him tucked in bed, still sleeping peacefully in his red race car pyjamas. My friend asked me if I saw him standing there in his green airplane pyjamas, and I confirmed that I had. My friend freaked out and left. I slept on my kids' bedroom floor that night to make sure nothing happened to them. My friend and I still talk about it to this day. It's one of the craziest things that's ever happened to me. My son, of course, doesn't remember any of it, but he loves to hear in the story of his own doppelganger scared the crap out of us. Wow. Okay, isn't he a bit young to, for you to be telling him?
Yeah, one,
about that?
Not good. Two, what type of friend leaves?
Oh, yeah, it's like, oh, wow, you got something scary? Ditching you.
Exactly.
What a friend. Okay. That is definitely a terrifying one. And hold on, if the doppelganger son was stood in the doorway, would they not have seen the son sleeping? Or would they have not seen them both together?
No, because he was in bed sleeping. Then the doppelganger in the green pyjamas was in the hallway
of the kitchen.
Of wherever they were.
Yeah.
And then they disappeared. So when they went to check on him, he was in bed.
Right, okay, yeah, I got mixed up and I thought that the doppelganger son was in the doorway of the actual son's bedroom. So I got mixed up in my head. Okay, yeah, that's definitely very creepy. And I would like to know if anything happened like this. I'm going to guess nothing happened like this before. And I'm going to guess it didn't happen again.
I was really shocked. I feel like this is way too far away. I think I need to stop being lazy.
Yeah, I'm going to also guess nothing happened afterwards. So, I mean, I wonder what it could have been, what caused it. I obviously know it's a doppelganger, but what was pretending to be the son and why?
A doppelganger's bad. I'm guessing so.
I think it is. Because
it was crying, as in to try and get the mother to come.
Yeah, it's like a mimic, isn't it?
It's just it shows and stuff.
Which is bad. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this story. I feel like I would have liked to know more. Has anything else ever happened in that house? Like I said, I'm only guessing not because they haven't mentioned anything about it.
I'm sorry, I can't look at you straight from the last podcast.
What do you mean?
Because
what happened?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely an interesting one. I'm more intrigued of why they told the son, because if the son isn't even old enough to dress themselves, then why have they told them?
Exactly. I would tell the son when they're at least
older.
At least 13.
Or maybe even older. Nah,
depends how mature they are.
I just love how the friend ditched them. And also the different pyjamas. Can a doppelganger replicate you from what you have looked like before?
Why are you asking me?
I suppose it's a more rhetorical question. Just because the different pyjamas, it throws me off a little.
Does he own some green, whatever was on them pajamas?
Airplane pyjamas.
Airplane pajamas.
I think, well, I'm guessing so because the mother knew about them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, look, and wearing his green pyjamas with airplanes on them. So the mother knew about it. Interesting. Okay, next story. This happened to many of us girls that worked together. We worked at a dog kennel place. Many weird things happened, but let me stick to your main theme for this comment, because obviously it's another thing. We would hear each other speak, and when we weren't even there that day, I would constantly see my manager standing next to me as I bathed dogs, like she wanted to say something. But when I turned around, no one was there. We would randomly get called to the kennel or office, and when we got there, no one was looking for us. Sometimes our radios turned off would go on and sound, bring Fido to the office for pickup. Get to the office with said dog, and no one had radioed, nor were the owners there. Twice, one of my friends texted me mad because she saw me talking to a manager on my day off and was upset I didn't go back and talk to her for a bit. I didn't go in. We called it the mimic or imitator, and it was always the same three of us that were mimicked. Like I said, a lot more of creepier stuff happened. Oh, okay, so there was just these three specific people that just kept like being mimicked, and they would like get asked to like bring certain dogs to the office, and
Yeah, that's weird.
and they would like hear each other. And at some point, didn't one of them say, like, was it the manager or one of them was stood next to them, and then when they turned around they weren't there? So is it even mimicking the look of someone? Or yeah, I would constantly see my manager standing next to me.
It's basically a mimic and a doppelganger.
Oh my goodness.
If
Yeah, it'd be a mixture of both, wouldn't it? Oh, I don't like that.
I look so but you when you're editing this, and I just look at that, I'm gonna be
Yeah, you've got no energy for this podcast.
I'm trying.
Episode. So, yeah, I wouldn't like that because I would want to know like why it's targeting those three people that are working in that place. You'd have to bear with Lexie this episode. I can only assume what myself and my mum encountered with a doppelganger. Before I start, my dad used to work at night. Anyways, when I was around 6 or 7, I lived in a townhouse with my mum and dad, up until my mum passed away less than a couple of months later, and she was pouring me some milk in the kitchen like every other night, and I was winding down for school the next day. There was nothing scary at this night, and I was just waiting for my mum to pour milk and looking out into our living room in front of me, looking at things and just waiting. However, on one of my head swivels from looking around, my dad has appeared in front of the closet door in our living room. It didn't scare me at first, since I just assumed it was my dad, but looking back, there was no noise ever made. Our doors and floors creaked, and with how quiet it was, we would have heard anyone moving around. However, what was so scary about it was my dad was just standing there and staring at us from across the room. It wasn't scary at first, since I was still under the impression that it was my dad. But no longer he kept standing there and staring at me, the scarier it got. He didn't move an inch, didn't blink, and the longer I kept looking at him, I noticed his eyes were too small. Oh no. They were wide open, but small enough to where it looked wrong. I remember I started to blink and rub my eyes because I thought maybe I was just seeing things, but it just kept standing there for a good minute longer, until after I blinked it just disappeared. No noise at all. There was no way, considering it disappeared in a blink, for it to have humanly moved that fast without making some kind of sound. The only way it could have disappeared as fast as it did was if it slammed the door shut behind it. I remember how terrified I was at that point, and looking to my mum to see if she saw it too. Well, she didn't say anything, and so I assumed I just hallucinated it for years. That was until a few years ago I was telling my dad about that night, and he told me my mum had also seen it, but due to her mental health problems and me not saying anything to her or him about it, I hadn't said anything when I looked at her. He dismissed it as a hallucination. Nothing quite like that has ever happened to me again, but that experience was the reason for years I couldn't sleep without a light on. Before that day, I was not afraid of the dark. I didn't believe in ghosts, didn't even understand the people that actually die at that point, and was not really exposed to religion, and not recently either. Every night after that incident, until we moved, I was petrified to even sleep in my room. Her dad works at night, and she sees her dad, but really, it's not her dad, just staring.
Okay, my question is, why wouldn't it is a she, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Why wouldn't she not speak to the thing? Because, like, if I was to see Dad just stood there staring, I'd be like, mate, what are you doing?
Well, yeah, like, you'd ask questions. Especially because it seems like he was standing there for a while.
So, like, I'll be like,
Yeah.
you okay?
But then they said that they started to realise that the eyes just didn't seem right. Like, his eyes were wide, but, like, they were small. So I suppose that's when you kind of like, this doesn't feel right. Like, maybe she had a feeling of, like, it doesn't feel right. I don't know. But then, obviously, the mother did see it, didn't say anything to the daughter, but the father just thought that because of mental health issues, the mother was just hallucinating. So, well, obviously, I believe it, because if the father works at night and they know that he's not home.
Yeah.
I just want to know, like, what, you know, if I thought someone was meant to be at work or not home and then I see them, I wouldn't just, and they're just staring at me, I wouldn't just stare back. I would ask, like, what you doing home? You know, so, like, your point, I'd ask some type of question. But then I'm going to guess she maybe started getting, like, this odd feeling before even attempting to ask.
The thing is, though, even if I noticed something was, like, off, I would still pretend to, like, not know.
Yeah, because aren't you supposed to pretend like you don't know what's happening? Like, are you not supposed to make it obvious?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, for example, with a mimic, if you know it's a mimic and, like, not real, then you're supposed to, like, ignore it and pretend that you don't hear it.
Yeah.
And then I'm guessing it's, like, same with, like, a doppelganger, you pretend you don't see it.
Yeah.
Or you just don't know. Like, if you already made it obvious that you've seen it, then you just pretend that you think it's the actual person.
Yeah, that would make sense. Otherwise, you're giving it the attention it wants.
Exactly.
I've seen and had a few. They aren't very creepy or anything. To me, they were. My dad woke me up once, shaking me awake and telling me to get up in a very urgent tone he rarely used. I didn't turn around to face him or anything, just fell back to sleep after hearing heavy footsteps walk off. He later woke up in a panic, thinking I had missed an appointment or something. He said he hadn't even left his room. The second time this happened, I woke up and felt like I was being watched. This time I opened my eyes and glanced over to the bathroom door, and my sibling was staring at me. They slowly moved over to the edge of the bed, like weirdly slow. I sat up and told them to go back to bed. The house was so creepy, and I know they wouldn't head downstairs in the middle of the night, no matter what. I offered to bring them back up, but they didn't seem to register anything I was saying. So they sat down, and it was pretty much a wordless staring contest. Eventually they left in that same saunter, and I wearily fell back asleep. I asked about it in the morning. Yep, never left their room upstairs. I barely slept while I lived in that house. It was always loud, and every night brought something different. Any time I would sleep, I would be startled awake by something. The last one I can remember was my sister coming home, the front door opening and slamming with her, yelling up at us, saying she was home before hearing her jog downstairs. She was supposed to be at work, so my mum and I exchanged glances. I went to go greet her. I looked everywhere. All the rooms were empty and the house was quiet. The door never opened again, and everyone in the house at the time was upstairs. We messaged both her and my older sister, both of which were not home and never came home. I kind of wish I got to see what opened the door. Everyone in the house heard it, so that one I can confirm wasn't brought on my sleep-deprived hallucinations. Weird stuff, really. The first two happened at my grandma's house, where one person passed away. The second was in an old home. Oh, okay, so they happened in different places. Okay, that's very interesting. So that must mean the mimic is kind of like attached to that family in some way, maybe?
Yeah.
So the first thing happened was her dad was shaking her awake. She fell back to sleep. Obviously, it wasn't her dad. Her dad never left the room. Then it was her sibling. But again,
acting all weird.
Staring. It's always the staring.
Yeah, like, what's up with them staring?
Like, wordless staring.
If they're trying to make it not obvious, that's not... Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If they're trying to do that, then why would they just be like... Like, obviously, who would do that in actual...
Yeah, like who would just stand there and stare.
Would you tell me if that ever happened to me?
What, like if there was a mimic of you?
Yeah.
and like that happened to me, would I tell you? Yeah.
If basically you saw a mimic of me.
I'll tell you.
Did you just say that?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad.
I will tell you.
Like, right after or when I'm older?
I'll probably tell you now. Yeah, I'll tell you now because
I would want you to tell me now.
Yeah, I'll tell you now, just because.
Because then I'd be way more cautious.
Yeah. Well, what you're being cautious about, you can't stop it. I think. I'm just saying, like, I don't think there's anything you can do that would stop it, unless it's like you you get rid of it somehow. I don't know if you can get rid of it. I don't know.
I think. Did you hear? I was just like, I was yawning.
Yeah.
Do you use like sage or something like you do like with the ghost hunting thing?
I suppose so. Yeah. I think you would.
So I'm pretty sure it just leaves you.
What?
No,
Eventually.
eventually, maybe.
What? Like you don't think it's an attachment?
I don't know.
And then, so that happened at the grandmother's house, both of them, and then at their house, that's when they thought the sister came home, but the sister didn't come home. And like the sister apparently shouted up the stairs and then like jogged away, but that didn't really happen. Well, I mean, it did, but it wasn't.
Stairs and then what?
Shouted up the stairs and then jogged away.
Who does that?
Who doesn't do that? Like who shouts like I'm home and then like walks away.
Oh, I thought you meant like jogs at the house.
Oh no.
I was like, who does that? Because then obviously you're not home anymore.
Next question. Well, not question. Next story. I remember way back when I still was in high school, I was playing games on my computer when my mum opened up the door, peeked her head in, and told me was home for lunch. So I literally thought nothing of it. Only thing I felt was off was the blue shirt she was wearing, which I've never seen her wear before. But then again, I never cared much about those sort of details to begin with. Anyway, an hour goes by, my mum opens the door and peeks her head in and tells me she just went on lunch and wanted to know if I wanted to get some of her fries. I told her I'd just seen her an hour ago and that she told me she was on lunch and how she was wearing a blue shirt, which at this point she was wearing a white shirt. She looked confused and told me hasn't been home all day since leaving for work, and that was 1 p.m. when she usually takes lunch. I still don't know if that was a doppelganger or a spirit, or if I had like a weird mental moment, but I never got a scared feeling nor out of worldly presence from who I believe to be my mom. So surely if it was like a mimic or a doppelganger, you always get like this odd feeling. It's just like a human response. And with the other stories that we've heard, they always have this like odd feeling. Now they didn't get this odd feeling, so I'm probably only going to assume that maybe it was like, maybe they thought that happened but it didn't.
I'm not sure, but also have you noticed like every single like mimic is there for like ages?
Yeah.
Unless you like look away, because half of them are having like actual staring competitions.
Well, yeah, and then like.
And then the very first one, they looked away and then looked back and it was.
Yeah, it's whenever they look away, it's gone then. I've noticed.
Would you look, if you saw it, would you look away or would you stare at it?
I'd look away, I think. I don't know what my reaction would be.
I feel like I would want to look away, but then I would be too scared because then I'm like taking my eyes off it and it can do whatever.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Like I have said in every episode, I just feel like you never know what you're going to do in those kind of situations. It's always kind of like, you'll know when it's happening type thing.
Yeah.
I'm just finding it interesting about like this shirt detail. Like the doppelganger had a blue shirt, but the mother had a white shirt. So like if it was just with it, like a mental moment, could it have been? Yeah, I suppose you could make up the shirt detail unless you, because they said at the beginning that they don't normally take in the details, so it could have just been like a moment.
Yeah. Also, how do I word it? I have it in my brain. Like I'm not having like a blank brain. Like I know what I'm gonna say. You know how like it must take like a lot of like, is it energy? Is that what mimics use?
I suppose that would take energy.
I don't know, but like whatever they use, it would take a lot of that. So like obviously sometimes they get it wrong.
Yeah. True.
Which makes it be like, okay, you're not whoever.
Yeah. Okay, on to the next story. Many years ago, probably about 10 now, I had a look-alike in the same town as me. The catch is that I never saw her and only heard about her from others, my dad included. My own father mistook this person as me one day, so that goes to show just how much we look like each other. I knew where she worked only because people would ask me if I also worked there. The question was often asked to me while I was working. I did try a few times to visit her work just to see if maybe I could recognise this look-alike of mine, but I never did. I also knew her name at one point because people thought maybe she was my sister, and I asked one day what her name was. The name has long since left my memory. Eventually her work shut down, and it was a video library for renting movies and games. Streaming was becoming much more popular at that time. My story is not nearly as exciting or interesting as other stories, though it still blows my mind to this day that I had a doppelganger or a possible lookalike in my very town, and I never once saw her, but people around me always did. Okay, that's very strange.
That's giving the Vampire Diaries.
Yeah. Can you see your own mimic? I don't think you can you?
I don't think they're that stupid to do that.
That's what I mean. So
Because they won't fool you because it's yourself.
yeah, so maybe that's why they never saw their own doppelganger, because they can't. But everyone else in that town has. It's like, it's a bit strange. One day years ago, I ran into a friend I hadn't seen for a few months. I said hello and she got a bit snippy with me and made the remark, "Oh, now you're talking to me." I was bewildered, and even more so when she told me that she had seen me in her church at the 11 Mass and the past 3 Sundays. She talked to me at each Mass, but I either glared at her or ignored her. I told her that I went to my church's Saturday 5 evening Mass and was nowhere near her church at the time. She kept insisting that it was me, so I suggested that I go to Mass with her for the following Sunday, and I did, and I wasn't there that day. We had gone through grade and high school together, and she knew me, and I swore up and down that it was not me, dressed in the exact same coat I wore. The same makeup and perfume, so how was I there when I wasn't? It was truly mysterious. Oh, okay.
That's weird.
That is weird. Have they been to this church before? I mean, a church is a bit of a weird place for a mimic or a doppelganger to be, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I've never heard of that one before, but this doppelganger of this person was at the church and obviously didn't want to speak because I don't think they... Well, mimics can, but doppelgangers, I don't think they can speak. No, of course they can. But obviously they chose not to speak to this friend. And so then it made that...
mimics obviously speak because
they mimic.
But doppelgangers, every single time they're not speaking.
True.
Although, actually, that one time with the mother in the blue shirt.
Yeah.
That time they were speaking. So I guess they can, but I guess they just, like, choose not to because otherwise they can, like, blow their cover.
Yeah, I suppose. That was an interesting one. But obviously we don't know too much about their past or, like, their life.
Which, can I also just quickly say, they blow their cover anyway because it's more weird just being, like...
Yeah.
The whole time, so, like...
My girlfriend and I were setting up some furniture in her basement. I told her I'd be right back. Went down to the door and up the stairs to get to the bathroom. She had to come up a minute later and was asking if I had come back downstairs. I hadn't. She began to explain to me that I came back into the basement, stared her down and walked into the laundry room. She went to investigate to see what was wrong with me, but nothing was there and I had been in a whole different area of the house. The house was built in 1912 and it's very active. Her mother has seen a mimic of my girlfriend a few times as well. Okay, so this seems to be like a reoccurring thing that just happens in this house, which makes sense if it was built in 1912 because that is a very old house.
The Titanic sunk in 1912.
Wow.
Random fact, by the way. That's the only fact I know because that's the only fact I remembered.
I was about to say, how do you know that? I don't think I even remember that.
I don't know the exact date, but I know the year.
Yeah, that's terrifying because I couldn't imagine, like, someone's left the room, but then you see them walk into another room, you go in and it's just empty. Like, imagine that feeling. I'd be terrified.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd ever be the same. I had 2 experiences following each other, which is strange because I don't experience many paranormal encounters. So my mum and I were cooking in the kitchen when we heard a knock at the sliding door, and my dad yelled, "Hello," in the exact way he always does when he wants us to open for him. His voice, tone and rhythm was exact and familiar. So my mum tells me to go open for my dad and go to check, but no one is at the door. I walk into the kitchen to tell my mum this, and just as I do, we see him drive up to the gate through the kitchen window. We live on a farm, so the gate is quite far from the house. It couldn't have been a prank, and he's not the type anyway. The next day, around the same time, my mum and I were in the kitchen again. There's another knock at the sliding door. My mum tells me to go and open it for my dad, and I say something like, "It would be really creepy if there's no one there again." I'm sure you can guess, but yet again, there was no one at the door. It only happened twice those 2 days after each other, but I really don't know what to make of it. Okay, so if your dad isn't a prankster, like if it's not the type of person he is, you know, and you know that. Also, why does it only happen twice?
Yeah.
And it's weird how your dad pulls up straight after, though. But again, it can't be him pranking, because if he's not the type to do that. Very strange. Strange story. But very interesting. I just find it like really weird and creepy how something that like you don't understand can like be you. Like sound like you, act like you. It's actually like terrifying to think about, because like my thing is kind of like the other story, that mimic can make you look like a bad person if someone thinks it's generally you and like they've done something bad. Do you know what I mean? So like it's a scary thing. I love the way that throughout this whole podcast you can just see Lexie like going further and further and further down because she's getting tired by the minute.
Yeah, I'm not processing anything you're saying, by the way.
Oh.
So I'm going to have to watch this podcast and actually, like, experience everything new myself, because I'm not processing anything.
I did say we could leave it until the next day. Okay. I have a ghost in my house. It's completely harmless except for it's like to mimic me. All of my family members say that they see me walking down the stairs or that I called them. I will just be there in my room minding my own business. The funny thing is I have never heard it or even seen that ghost, but everyone has had some kind of experience with it except me. It doesn't show itself to me, but likes it present itself as me. Oh right, okay. Yeah, so
present itself, I'm pretty sure they meant.
Yeah, I think they wrote it a bit wrong. So again, like a recurring thing with these stories is the actual person that's being mimicked never sees their own mimic, which again kind of makes sense because, well, the mimic's not going to show themselves to the person that they're mimicking. Like, it does make sense. Someone actually commented to that one and said, "That sounds like a demon who's obsessed with you, take care." Wow.
Nice way to put it. It's
I know.
terrifying though.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Next story. I have a lookalike. A few years ago, I purchased 2 baby seats for an ex-girlfriend to pick up at Walmart. Yes, she was the one that got away, and I will always love and respect her and her new family. While she was in a parking lot, a guy walked by that looked identical to me. She snapped a few pics to send me, knowing I was out of the state at the time. Since then, 2 different women from 2 different gas stations had run into him. They think I am him. And one kid that worked at another gas station told me that he knows I am playing tricks on him because I always buy, is this camel? Yeah, cigarettes every other day. I do not smoke, so I finally told him to get this guy's name and number so we can meet finally. The young kid quit the next day. I've never met my doppelganger. See what I mean? Never. They never meet their own doppelganger because, well, again, I just don't think it's possible. But imagine getting all these, like, texts, well, pictures of yourself. And you're like, I'm out of town. Like, this is not me. And also finding out that someone's buying cigarettes but you don't smoke. I wonder why the guy quit the next day though. Like, what experience did he have to have quit? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, something terrifying must have made him quit his job. I'm just saying. Recently, I went on a paranormal investigation at the Bel Air house in Ohio. I was with my sister, my daughter, 23-year-old son, 22-year-old, and brother-in-law. We rented the house overnight. We were using the spirit box, and clear as day, my son's voice came across it. We all thought we were crazy, but thankfully we were recording and listened to it over and over. There was no question that it was my son's voice that came through the box. Wow. And you know what's even weirder? The son would have been there, so he would have had his own voice over the box.
I'm pretty sure I fell asleep while set up.
No way.
I've checked the footage when you're editing, see, because I remember, I don't know when, but like I was still listening kind of, but I was on my own little thing, and like I went like, and all I remember is going, but I don't remember close my eyeballs.
Have you ever known someone to fall asleep during their own podcast?
Not me.
Yeah, so yeah, that's an interesting one because the son would have heard his own voice through the spirit box. So that's the first time that we've heard the person hear their own mimic, if you know what I mean, which is interesting. Oh yeah, imagine if that, like, they posted the recording. But then again, we wouldn't know what the son's voice sounds like. But you know what I mean, it just would have been interesting to listen to. I also find it interesting how they do a spirit box in a rented house that they're staying in overnight. Like, what an interesting choice to make. Okay, I think that we will end this episode here. I know that it's a much shorter one than what we normally would do, but as you can tell, Lexie is falling asleep. But it is late while we're filming this, and it is our second episode that we have filmed today. But maybe another episode we will talk more about doppelgangers and mimics. If you have any stories of your own that you would like to share, please comment them and we will read them on the podcast. I feel like that would be fun to have everyone else's experiences. But thank you all so much for listening or watching. Please remember to subscribe if you are listening on YouTube. And we also have the podcast on Spotify, so please make sure to follow along on there and rate it 5 stars if you would like to help us push out our podcast even more. Again, thank you all so much for listening. We appreciate you, and we hope to see you all in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.